Hey everyone, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 550, being recorded Wednesday, July 17th, 2019. I'm Jim Tannis.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
And we're glad you could join us. I'm still not feeling great, and I look even worse. So I'm just an avatar this week. So I'm the talking square or the talking image in the lower right corner. But I'm glad to be here with you. And sorry I missed you guys, missed being part of the show last week. But we do record Wednesday nights usually at 10 p.m. Eastern. That works out to about 2 a.m. UTC with daylight savings. And you can join us at pcper.com/live, where we have the embedded YouTube stream and chat, or you could also join us in our Discord. We have an invite link to the Discord in all of our podcast show notes, so check that out at pcper.com/podcasts. And if you want to know when we go live, so you don't miss a show for the weeks that we're off of our normal schedule, you can go to pcper.com/subscribe, where you join our mailing list. We use this only to notify you an hour or so before we're about to go live. So you can check that out. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. We don't use it for any purpose other than to notify you. If you want to help us out here, we've got the Patreon campaign at patreon.com/pcper, where you can make a monthly donation to help the cost here. If you do things like run an ad blocker, or you just want to add some extra support, this is a way to do that. And as part of that, we have the little deal where if you become a new patron during the show, or if you increase your existing pledge during the show, change your name in Patreon before you do that. I'll get a notification and I'll read out your name if that's what you want, or anything else you put in that name field. And we've actually got a couple here. This one came in last week. I think it was during the show, but I didn't notice it till after because I wasn't really involved in the show itself. So I apologize. But Ken Likes Butt Stuff raised their pledge last week. So thank you. Thank you for that. And
yes, thank you so much.
I wonder if he's listening tonight. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you knew Ken, he's
and,
a straight arrow. Yeah.
Yes, he is. And another pledge this week came in. Jim Bastian the Conqueror, formerly known as Darth Malventano, increased their pledge this week. So thank you both, guys. Appreciate it. Every little bit helps. And then, of course, we've also got our merchandise store at joshtech.com. That's JOSHTEKK. And that's our Teespring store, where we've got t-shirts, mugs, posters. You can pick up a shirt or a mug or something there. We get a little bit of cut. You get something cool. So we appreciate that over there as well. It's joshtech.com. All right, well, let's jump into the show this week. It's going to be a little bit of a lighter show. We have all that AMD news from last week, and not as much.
You mean almost 3 hours long wasn't enough last week before you edited?
Yeah, it was almost, the raw file was just short of 3, and then it came out to just over 2 with edits and stuff to kind of keep it manageable. Oof. So we should be shorter this week, but let's dive in. We've got first up a review of some motherboards. Gigabyte has their complete line of AORUS motherboards. Now they offer motherboards for both Intel and AMD, and these are the Z390 boards, the AORUS Pro for, this is, of course, Intel processors. Sebastian had both the Pro ATX and the Mini-ITX versions of these, and he was able to do a bit of a quick review. And why don't you tell us, how did you find these boards, Sebastian?
Well, actually, the impetus behind this was that I've been using these pretty much nonstop since I got them. We got them early in the year, and at this point, I have done case reviews, like numerous case builds. If it called for Mini-ITX or even the Micro ATX cases, I use the Mini-ITX board, all the ATX stuff. And then with the big Ryzen launch, I used the AORUS Z390, the ATX board, as the test platform for all the Intel processors that appear on every one of the benchmarks. So these have been in heavy rotation around here. And the sort of interesting thing about them is not only the mix of features you get, or a pretty aggressive price for a premium Z390 platform. If you price these out, the cheapest Z390 board you can find on Newegg, anyway, when I looked the other day, was $100. So then for the high end, you can easily get up to 500. I even saw a couple. I know there's that one Gigabyte board that has the built-in water blocks. It's around $700 or $800. But there is a few boards in like the $400 to $500 range. But if you don't need every last bell and whistle, you get quite a bit for the ATX version. The AORUS Pro is $189 on Amazon, and the Mini-ITX is the 390i Pro Wi-Fi. That's $165. So for that kind of cash, that's not bad if you've thought about previous generations of the Z series motherboards from Intel. I've personally paid generally the cheapest one I could find, like Mini-ITX especially, was around 130, 140. Had the features I wanted, and then you get more robust power delivery, better features if you go higher. But for the money, these have really good specs and very good build quality. They do the things like the armored PCI Express slots, and one of the little things about this that I like the most, actually, and it's a little thing, but for somebody who's swapping DIMMs quite a bit, having clips that push down on both sides of a DIMM, like an old school motherboard, is great. And I haven't had that in a while. I don't think I've seen an Intel board in a couple of years. I didn't have one here that didn't have one of those like solid mounts on one side and then a clip on the other. You have to kind of angle it in, and pulling them out, you always hear like a little bit of that like pin shatter against the DIMM, and it freaks me out. So it's great for me anyway to be able to actually lift it all the way out. But the remarkable thing about these, and this is one of them right here, this is the Z390 Pro, the ATX board, is it's 100% reliable in every day I've ever used it. I've had zero blue screens with this, even through GPU swaps and CPU swaps and memory swaps and using different SSDs. I've never had it crash back to the BIOS and have to reset itself or reject memory or have any kind of cooling or VRM issues. And there's plenty of space around the VRMs to mount various coolers, even though I'm using one here. This is the Cooler Master 212 RGB Black Edition. But even coolers that don't have quite the clearance of something like this, even the Mini-ITX one, if you look at the pictures in the review, there's a bunch of space. It's like a big square around the CPU, which is what you'd want. So even the Argon series AR11 cooler from Silverstone, which is a big square that fills up every millimeter of space you have available, fit perfectly down in on that board. So intelligent design, good performance. I didn't include a bunch of benchmark numbers just because everything I've reviewed this year that used Intel used one of these two boards. But that was just basically my endorsement of these, is that they're surprisingly reliable, and compared to the competition, they're pretty, competitively priced.
So is it kind of interesting to see that Intel boards are actually less expensive than a somewhat comparable AMD board?
Yeah,
because that's a pretty nice X390 for $190.
Yeah,
and then if you go across
exactly. Like X570,
X570, and it's going to be $75 more.
Yeah.
Do you think that's all chipset with the X570 chipset? Is that more robust board design? Like the boards I've handled seem about the same as an Intel board as far as like how many layers the PCB is, and
I think the chipset is quite a bit more expensive.
You got a cooler bolted on there too.
Yeah, and I don't know what else. I mean, probably a lot of the PCIe 4.0 compliant physical layer stuff is more expensive. Tolerances probably a lot tighter, requiring multiple extra layers in the actual PCB. So when you put all that together, it probably makes sense that they are more expensive per kind of feature point. Because PCIe 4.0 it's interesting. And we're going to find out a lot of interesting things about it throughout the rest of this summer.
Yes. Like PCIe storage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so these boards aren't new, as Sebastian said, but he's been using them all year and realized how good they are. So that's the prompting for this review, is that he had enough experience and had a lot of good stuff to say. So editor's choice for the Gigabyte AORUS Z390 motherboards. All right, and we just got a new patron.
Ooh.
This one, and I promise you, this wasn't my mom, but the name for the Patreon donation was "Just Take My Money and Keep Up the Good Work." So thank you very much.
But was it directed at Jim? It didn't say Jim specifically.
That's true. It didn't, but
No, I don't think it came from your mom, unless she would have intentionally excluded.
Could have been
like,
Sebastian's mom.
it could have been.
Yeah,
Maybe
true.
that's yeah.
Mhm.
And if it was Jeremy's mom, she would have paid us in toques.
True. And maple syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah, not such a bad deal.
Maple syrup is just not cheap. Real stuff. The gallon price
Sure
in
it
Michigan,
is.
anyways, is pretty high.
Just got to head back to Quebec to get it.
Yep.
3 1-liter cans usually run me about $8 or $9 Canadian at Christmas time.
Oh, that's cheap.
Oh yeah,
Like
can't even
$5
get
in
one
America.
here in you couldn't
What's a
even get one
Canadian
of those
dollar
here
right
in
now?
Vancouver.
It's what, 78
75.
cents per dollar?
Yep, 77 cents
Uh-huh.
US is one Canadian dollar.
God, they've been hanging out there for the last 30 years. They made a run at us for one time in like
Hey, we were
2008.
worth more than you for a bit.
Yeah, but then
2016 or so.
And
Ryan's paycheck
look how
shrunk suddenly.
look how the pound has fallen. Remember when the pound was at least $2 and now it's like
yeah,
$1
Like 30.
Well, that was back before they asked America to hold their beer and show them how stupid they could be.
All right. Well,
I
let's
don't know.
not
Let's not
get
get
political.
Let's not alienate a portion of our audience. Some of
Well,
whom are in there.
there goes half the Patreon. But
You know what? I've been to England once and I liked it a lot. I was walked around downtown Cambridge and I was charmed by it.
oh yeah, lovely place. Lots of places in the world are lovely. But all right, let's move on. We sort of teased PCIe at the end of that, PCIe 4.0 at the end of that. But before we jump into that, because we do have a few stories on that, an AMD related story here. Last week, the rumors of the Radeon VII's demise sort of came out. There was a report from Video Cards that from their channel partners that AMD has discontinued production of the Radeon 7. You know, this doesn't necessarily. I mean, I don't think there's been any official confirmation here, but it's not terribly surprising, right? Considering the new architecture that's coming out, the awkward placement of this card initially. But what do you, Sebastian? You reviewed this card. What do you guys think about this report?
I look at, and I'm holding the card, of course, and I'm looking at the architecture. RDNA is so impressive. What they're able to do with what I think some skeptics at the beginning were thinking was some sort of respin of Graphics Core Next again, and that architecture has been in place for 7+ years now. And you had high bandwidth memory in the Radeon 7, which they did a very they tried very hard to sell the idea of a graphics card that needed to have 16 gigabytes of memory. Like, what are all the possibilities you can do? Like super sampling and running at ultra high
and damn
resolution
near
and stuff.
1 terabyte per second of data throughput.
Mhm.
With
Oh, yeah.
that 16 gigs. That's
And I'm not saying this won't still be sought after as like the ultimate Hackintosh card or the ultimate OpenCL or just compute task solution. But if you're looking at it just from a gaming standpoint, which is most of what we do here, it costs the same as an RTX 2080. It doesn't do any real-time ray tracing if you care about that. But that starts to matter a little bit when it's like priced identically. If this had come out at $599, you could say, look, forget about the RTX tax. This thing can perform just as well as it if the game's optimized properly, and it's $100 less. But it came out at $699. It's still at $699. I think I've seen it at as low as $669, but that sale is gone. That was an ASRock card on Newegg that sold out. And this is starting to sell out everywhere. And that supply chain rumor was that there weren't going to be any more. AMD's only comment about that to, I think, Tom's Hardware was that we see the supply chain as still being strong, or some words to that effect. They didn't deny it. They didn't say it was still in production. It's a little odd that after only 5 months they'd EOL it, but seeing the results from the 5700 XT, I'm thinking you just release a bigger version of Navi and you don't need this card, and you can be a lot more price competitive because you're not using HBM2. Josh, don't you think that was a lot of the problem with pricing on this, is that you put 16 gigabytes of HBM2 in a graphics card, and it can't be a $499 graphics card anymore for them to make any margins on it.
no, I mean, it's you got the interposer there that costs like 20 or 30 bucks, and then you got the 4 stacks HBM memory, and those are pricey. That gets up into, I guess, around 120 bucks. And then you've got the Vega chip itself. It's 7 nanometers, so it's more per wafer that they're spending to get these, even though it's an older design. And it's still a pretty large chip. It's not, it's what, 400 and some odd millimeters squared, I think. And then you got to put all that together into one actual working chip interposer memory group, and that's extra money. And once you start adding in, PCBs are only, 15 bucks for a pretty complex PCB, and then you got all the power components and all the cooling in that. And then you start looking at AMD has a markup of their own that they then send it to the distributors, the ASUS's and the ASRoCs, and they essentially just then put a sticker on that card and put a little margin on what they paid for it, and then they send it out, and it just, at $6.99 they're making some money. At $4.99 nobody's really making any money, and it's hot, and it still pulls a lot of power, and nobody uses 16 gigs unless you're a content creation person. And there are content creation people who love this card because oodles of extremely fast, low latency memory. And that's great. And relatively good drivers for it that AMD has, stepped up quite a bit in a lot of these professional applications that will actually utilize that. But gamers who want to have good performance, well, you look at the RTX 2070 Super and the RTX 2080. If you're willing to spend that kind of money, you're going to get a lot more for your money with those two cards.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you're platform agnostic, it wasn't the best deal to get a Radeon 7. It was, you could find benchmarks like Far Cry 5 where it would be tied with the 2080. Depending on the 2080, of course. And I tested a Founders Edition. That's the thing that's right here. So, of course, the Founders Edition is clocked up higher and costs more. So this would be a $799 card versus a $699 card. So, I mean, there are arguments to be made, I guess, about the whole value proposition. And there's definitely a point when people question the use of Founders Edition cards on NVIDIA's side when AMD doesn't have Founders Edition cards necessarily. Although they did have Frontier Edition at one point. But in liquid-cooled versions. It would have been sweet to see a liquid-cooled version of this, of course. But already, if you've invested in this card, then it seemed like people were looking for reasons to justify all the extra memory. And like you said, if you're a content creator, and this is all from the gaming standpoint, if you're a content creator, then it's fantastic because you run Adobe applications which can take advantage of this, and you're just accelerating the heck out of whatever you're doing. That's great. And it's too bad that something like, I was going to say it's too bad something like this isn't in a Mac because of how it takes advantage of the AMD architecture, but it is, because the Vega 2 is two of these things on one PCB, and it's just massive. It's like this massive 500-watt GPU with two of these 64 CU GPUs on it, and even more memory. So, that's great. You buy the Mac Pro at however many $1,000 your configuration is, and you're still going to have Vega 2. This will live on, but maybe not on the PC side of things. Because Apple is not going to embrace NVIDIA, probably as long as their CEOs remain in their current positions. So, Graphics Core Next lives on with HBM2 on Macs, but on PC, GDDR6, more than fast enough, and Navi is pretty incredible for what it can do with 40 CUs and 36 CUs.
And that's just for now.
Yeah.
Whatever coming down the pipe is going to be even better.
Yeah. Like this car, and they're not super power efficient. I mean, this is still got an 8-pin and a 6-pin on it. And it's somewhere in like the 225, 250 watt range. I think this one's rated for 225 watt board power. But you go right back up to 300 watts again, like a Radeon 7, but with this architecture, you're going to be outperforming a 2080 handily. And now we have to worry about like the whole super cards, and it's very interesting. Like what's going on in the GPU world is interesting because of Navi. It would not be interesting if all we had to look at was a $700 Radeon 7 on graphics cards, is my opinion.
All right, great. So
why didn't I know about World of Tanks Encore? Where the hell have I been?
Know. It's
Out to sea.
It's the sad thing is, as beautiful as this looks, especially on the ultra settings where there's a different set of textures that loads, it is not in the actual game. This is not, it's just a concept. I thought it was going to be integrated into the game by this year, but I don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, it sounds like next generation they're going to eventually do it, but not right at this moment.
Universe of Tanks.
Yeah.
are you big into I thought your game was warships.
Yeah, I do warships, and I mean the engine looks nice, but I mean no matter what hardware you throw at it at ultra settings, it runs 76 to 77 frames per second, no matter what. They just kind of cap it out there.
Oh, okay, because there's what they're all the World of games, are they all the same engine? Is it tanks, planes, and warships?
I think they've diverged quite a bit just because of some of the realities of the physics and the design and distance and what the kind of player base is. I think that they've all kind of forked, but I mean they all use like an Autodesk type world building thing, and there's probably code that goes across, but I think that they've kind of got them separated into 3 different groups, and they're trifurcating, if you will.
All right. Well, so if you want a Radeon 7, go get one now.
Yeah. And I think AMD.com is about the only place to get it. They don't have the anniversary edition left, the red one. But the other night when I looked, they still had them in stock for $6.99, and nobody else did. And Amazon third party was already starting to bump up the prices by about $100 or more.
All right. Well, now we're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsor this week, and that is Clear. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that they've been a sponsor a few times so far this year, and absolutely love these guys because Clear is about helping you get where you want to go faster. For better or worse, security screening is a part of the experience at public venues like airports and stadiums. And at the same time, things like biometric security is becoming more common. Biometric security is basically using you as your ID. And Clear is a company that's sort of at the forefront of this change in the way that we stay secure, but also stay convenient and get through these security lines faster. Clear turns you into your ID. And that helps you with just the scan of your fingerprints or the look into the sensor with a retina scan, jump right through security, get where you need to go, catch your plane, get to your seats at the stadium faster. Here's how it works. You go to a location. There's over 50 in the United States, airports and stadiums. Go to a location that is partnered with Clear. There's a security checkpoint there. There's the regular line and there's the Clear line. Once you're a Clear member, you go into the Clear line. You leave your wallet with your ID in your pocket or your purse, or your bag, scan your fingers, and a Clear representative or a Clear ambassador takes you right to the front of the line. You still have to go through security, but you go right through because you've already proven who you are. You're already enrolled in this secure biometric service. To sign up is easy. Go to clearme.com/PCPer. That's CLEARME.com/PCPer and start the enrollment there. Then you complete your enrollment by going to any one of these 50 plus Clear locations. And the enrollment at the location only takes a couple of minutes. You show your ID, you scan your fingers, look at the little retina sensor, and then you're all set. You can start using Clear immediately. Also, once you're a Clear member, up to 3 additional family members, adult family members, can be added at a discounted rate. And if you have children, your children under 18 traveling with you, they can get through for free as well. Clear has saved me a ton of time. I'm a full paying member. I've loved this service. If you travel frequently, you have to get it. There's just no reason not to, because it saves hours. I've been at airports where I get there, I'm a little bit late, I'm stressing out. The security line is 100 people long. I go right up to the Clear line. I don't have to get my wallet out or anything. I show them my boarding pass on my phone, tap my fingers on the sensor, and I go right through security. And it's incredible. It saves so much time and stress. And that's really what it's about, is saving saving that time, saving that stress, because traveling is stressful enough. Don't add to it. Make sure that you are going to be taken care of, that you don't have to worry about long security lines. Clear's made an immediate improvement to my travel experience, and we want you to try it for yourself. Clear is giving PC Per listeners 2 months for free, absolutely free, to try it out. Just go to that website address, clearme.com/PCPer. That's CLEARME.com/PCPer. And if you enroll through that link, that lets them know that you heard about them through us, and we really appreciate that. And once you're signed up there, you get 2 months for free. So if you're a frequent traveler, like I said, you've just gotta try it. And even if you've only got 1 or 2 trips coming up, the remainder of this summer, still get the free enrollment, try it for free for 2 months. You can travel and use the service as much as you want within that 2 months. And it might save your day. It might save you from missing a flight. It might save you from missing the kickoff, whatever. Check it out, clearme.com/PCPer. We thank Clear for their support of the PC Perspective podcast. All right, back to the show. And as we were alluding to earlier, we've got some talk about PCIe 4.0. Obviously, the biggest factor with PCIe 4.0 is storage. There are PCIe 4.0 graphics cards like the 5700 series Radeon cards Sebastian was talking about earlier, but storage is really where it's at least in this initial iteration. And there's a couple of drives that came out. They're all based on the same Phison controller, but there's drives from a number of companies, and they've started to hit reviewers' hands, and we're starting to get some reviews. And I guess, to sum this all up, yes, they're fast. Yes, synthetically on paper, these drives from Corsair and Gigabyte and Sabrent, and I think how many of them are there? 7, 8 drives out on the market now. They're fast on paper. Real world, depending on your workload, may not be that much faster than a fast traditional PCIe 3.0 NVMe drive, but
it will cost you twice as much.
Well, maybe not, because some of these drives,
exaggerating a bit. But
some of these drives at the 1 terabyte level, they're higher than their non.
Yeah, it's 239.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it down that low yet.
A couple of the 2 terabyte versions, though, are actually cheaper than like their Samsung Evo counterpart at that capacity. Yeah. So the prices aren't anywhere near as bad as I thought they'd be. But they are power hungry and hot, and practical benefits may be limited at this point.
Yeah, I tweeted out earlier today. The good news about these Phison E16 controllers is that they support PCIe 4.0, and you get sequential speeds of reads of 5 gigabytes per second, right? 5 gig per second, and then writes of 4 gigabyte per second. But when you start breaking it down, essentially they added on a PCIe 4.0 PHY, I think that's the correct term, to their current SSD NVMe controller. And so you get these fast straight line speeds, but the weakness is it's slower in a lot of workloads that are more kind of desktop oriented than like the Samsung 970 Evo, or is it the 960 Evo? Well, whichever one. 970 is the latest, and the Evo Plus. Those are overall faster SSDs, but they just don't have that blazing write and read speed that the Phison does. But who copies big zip files and game folders and whatnot from drive to drive all the time? It's usually these traces are a lot more complex, and so you're not gaining a whole lot in your everyday workplace. But still being able to benchmark it and see 5 gigabyte per second reads, that's still impressive. So you take the good with the bad, and you've got a better overall product, and it's interesting and driving a lot of discussion online.
I think as it matures, we're going to see significantly more solid performance. This is Physon's first PCIe 4.0 controller, so and it was a bit of a rush, I think, to market. At least it feels that way. So as we see this mature, just like we did with the original batch of NVMe type drives, there's a significant difference between the 970 and the previous versions as it matured. And with the new PCI Express, the ceiling is so much higher if you can reach it, that you've got a lot of room to move. But then again, as Josh is pointing out, how often are you moving a 100 gig Steam library from drive to drive? If you're recording live 4K, 8K video, this is absolutely brilliant once you get to it. But for the most of us, it's a lovely little thing to have, but are you ever going to really stretch it?
Yeah. The thing I'm excited about with PCIe 4 is with storage, you could have buy 2 drives with the same performance as a PCIe 3 by 4 drive. So you could free up PCIe lanes or have more SSDs on the same number of lanes. And I'm sure that's going to be a lot more interesting on like the server side of things. But just for a home user, not having to devote 4 whole lanes off of, say I wanted to use only my CPU lanes for something, or I'm running an X370 or X470 board with a new Ryzen processor. I don't have those extra lanes coming off the chipset. So it would be nice to be able to just go out and pick out a really fast, like 3,000 megabyte per second Gen 3 drive on 2 lanes. I don't know if that's possible, if they can come out with buy 2 versions, or if, electrically it would have to be buy 2, I guess. You couldn't really have it step down to buy 2 with the same performance, but I guess if you did like a bifurcated
there will be probably less expensive devices, just like my digital SSD had a buy 2 PCIe 3.0 that less expensive. In most workloads, it was just as fast. It's just that when you started to get into that sequential stuff, that slower than the full by 4s.
Yeah. Well, we'll happily make the same sacrifice with QLC memory too, or QLC flash. Certainly a lot cheaper, but it is slower in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Plus
Once you reach a certain point, then that performance in QLC drops down pretty dramatically, as Jim can attest.
Yeah, everyone always gives me crap. Well, everyone being mostly Alan Malventano. I always get a text message from him.
Good. All right. I feel like you make everybody sad when you talk about how QLC is so slow. I can see why Alan might have a bone to pick with you.
No, and I don't. I mean, QLC is.
How do you work for Intel?
QLC is very slow in a certain workload that I happen to use a lot, and that the people I talk to happen to use a lot, and that's not necessarily well known, or at least it hasn't been. And I just don't. I mean, I was surprised when QLC drives first came out at how bad sustained write was, because it is literally slower than a dense mechanical hard drive. Some of these drives can go to 250 megabytes a second. A QLC drive is going to go 100 to 150 megabytes a second. So it's worth noting in those areas if you do that. But 95% of the market probably isn't going to be affected by that. But regarding the questionable value of PCIe 4.0 storage for common workloads, it's good because these Ryzen 3000 processors will run on X470 and B450 boards, and in some case 300 series boards. And one of the big draws for going to that much more expensive, harder to find X570 board was PCIe 4.0 for storage. And so if don't get me wrong, we're going to get there. We're going to get to the point, as you guys have said, where this makes more sense. But if you don't want to spend the money for X570, this is another reason you don't have to. Get that Ryzen 3000 processor, keep your X470 board, or buy a cheaper one, and just hang out on that for a generation or so until there's better performance, more controller options for PCIe 4.0 storage.
I've got a rebuild going on my main machine here pretty quick, and I've been saving this one for it, and this is it's a BPX Pro, and it's PCIe 3.0, and it's plenty fast for what it is, and it's 960 gig drive, and I got this thing in today. And it's not as exciting to me to think, well, maybe I should just get a X570 board and put that in my main machine. It's like, why? For what I do. I mean, this is going to be the testing drive, and I will unpackage some of this later because it's actually really kind of interesting packaging for this. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the last thing that I can say on that. PCIe 3.0 stuff is not going to die. They're plenty fast for what you do. I mean, the the 970 Evo Plus or the second generation, whatever they call it. I mean, it's still one of the best performing NVMe SSDs on the market. It just doesn't have that straight line speed. And let's not go into any car analogies, please. We got to save those for GPUs.
Years ago, when I was foolish enough to buy a Toyota Prius, this was 2005. That thing could go 100 miles an hour. It just took a really long time to get there. I think I got up to like 103 in it.
All right. Well, let's keep this podcast moving along at a good pace. We've got some news from NVIDIA this week that they're expanding their experience software. NVIDIA's been doing a lot with software. They've got, this different driver for creative and gamer drivers, and they've got their studio certification program now for laptops. And now they've announced a beta program for the Quadro experience, which is, if you've installed a NVIDIA graphics card in the last however many years, 7 years or 5 years, how long has GeForce Experience been around? It's a number of years. But if you're familiar with that, the GeForce Experience software, they're coming out with a Quadro experience software tailored for users of Quadro cards. And this is going to do things like help you with optimized drivers, or to, help you show you what drivers you're running and what can be optimized. Presumably, although none of us have seen this yet, they're just accepting beta applications at this point. But presumably there will be application-specific settings and recommendations to help you fine-tune performance for your card, just like they do for games in GeForce Experience. They've touted things like easy streaming, so you can do sort of if you're, Scott Michaud here, he occasionally will go on like Twitch and stream as he's working on something in Blender or Unity, and there's plenty of ways to do that right now, but this software would have another option for you to do sort of a streaming and audio and video streaming straight out of the app kind of thing. So, like I said, we have to wait and see what this is going to be because we don't have it in hand yet, but you can head over to the NVIDIA website where they've got the sign up now. So you put your email in, and then they said they'd start sharing more information on how to get that beta software in the next couple days. All right. So another news story here is that the Epic Games, what do they call it? Epic Mega Grants, which was a program they launched back in March at GDC. It's a program where they're donating money to various causes. And one of the most recent recipients of their donation is a $1.2 million donation to the Blender Foundation, which of course makes the free Blender rendering software. And so they've got this $1.2 million grant that apparently they can use it for anything as long as it goes towards improving the software. So that's good. And I know Scott was very eager to share news because he does use this, that in addition to this grant, Blender is about to hit version, I believe it's 2.80. It's in release candidate status right now. I think it's RC1 now, RC2 soon, and full release within days, if not weeks, if not days. And it's a completely revamped UI. I don't use Blender. I was talking to Scott about this in our Discord before this. I don't use Blender, so I'm not really familiar with all the features. But Scott's a big Blender user, and he's very excited about the changes coming there. So if you're a Blender user, you probably already knew about this. But if you're looking for a good 3D modeling app, and it also does some video editing features too. There's video editing capabilities built in. Head over and check out those release candidates for Blender 2.8, and stay tuned for the full release soon. And any of you guys use Blender?
For benchmarking.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever used it. I load a predefined benchmark file and time the render time. That's my extent of my Blender experience.
Plus, they have a handy standalone benchmark app now that does BMW and Classroom together, and you can get like the individual times and the cumulative time at the end.
Oh, is that an official app? Or okay.
Yep, it's the Blender Benchmark 1.0 beta. I think I downloaded it yesterday. Works fine. Although for some reason I'm getting much longer BMW 27 times than I was with standalone BMW in Blender 2.8 release candidate. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've thus far only ever just loaded the files manually and timed them, but all right, well, check that out if you're a Blender user. Next up, there's a story about a Russian company, a Russian game accessory company called Red Square. That's ominous. And they've got a new gaming mouse out. It's the Dark Project ME2. It's a new gaming mouse. Jeremy wrote this up for us. What's the exciting thing about this, Jeremy?
Well, the nice thing about it is that essentially you get everything you want. You get the nice PixArt sensor, RGBs, all sorts of lovely things for $50. So you're getting what many companies are charging you 100 or so for at about half the price. And you can also, point out that you get a mouse that no one has ever heard of before. It's also ambidextrous. So they designed it, it's perfectly symmetrical. You get those two thumb buttons on both sides, which is nice for regardless of which handed you are. But if you're one of them lefties, it's a perfect choice. And again, usually you have to pay a fair amount for it. The only thing you're going to miss out on is if you're really into adding weights to your mouse. This doesn't have it. But I mean, you could always glue something to it if you really felt like it. But other than that, it offers everything you want. The 1000 megahertz polling rate up to 1200 DPI or 12,000 DPI. And it's significantly cheaper than a lot of the other things on the market that have the equivalent. And besides, it's red square, so that just makes it funny to me somehow.
Yeah, I had never heard of them, but apparently in that Tech Power Up review, they say they're a fairly large, well-known accessory firm in Russia. Hopefully there won't be any special investigations into their influence in the PC gaming accessory.
The influence of
You might want to disassemble it and look for chips.
Strong.
Yeah. All right, so check out the full review of that if you're interested over at Tech Power Up. We have the link in the show notes for the podcast here. All right, I think I saw Sebastian prepping something for this. This is a new stand / audio card, audio device / wireless charger / USB hub from Cooler Master. The Cooler Master
it's everything
GS
you never
750.
thought you needed to have on your desk. Sorry
There
for
you
talking
go.
over you. Yeah,
Well,
this
tell
Cooler
us.
Master. Okay, I'm working on a quick review of this, and they sent along a headset just to use as an example. But this is kind of interesting because in addition to being, as you say, it's essentially a headphone stand. This part of it is aluminium. This base is kind of a multifunction thing. It has a 3.5 millimeter audio jack on it. So what you can do with that is not only just play audio from your computer through the USB connection on the back of this, it has its own DAC, so it also has its own audio processing capabilities, and you can do simulated surround sound. So whatever headphones you plug into it, any 2-channel headphones can become simulated surround headphones. We've seen some of the gaming headsets come with their own dongle that does the same thing. So that dongle is built into this. Like Jim said, it's also a USB hub. It's got 2 USB 3.0 ports on it. I mean, it has RGB. It has wireless charging for your phone, which is kind of nice. 7.5 watt charger for iPhones. And I think the box is far away, but I think it's much higher for Android phones, depending on the phone.
Yeah, 10.
But
or was it 5 and 7?
I think it's 7.5 and something. I think that was higher. I thought you can see it turns green when it's charging your phone. It starts glowing green. This is an iPhone 10 that's sitting on it right now, charging just fine. And I don't know. I mean, I struggle with the price. It's funny because Cooler Master is one of those companies where a lot of the stuff they offer tends to be cheaper than the competition. There's a lot of sub $100 Cooler Master cases, sub $70, sub $60 cases. And they have inexpensive gaming headsets that sound pretty good. But then this comes out at $79. And at some point, I don't know. If you like the mix of things that it has, it's interesting. But at $79 is kind of a tough sell because it's like a headphone stand plus something that would be probably pretty inexpensive on its own just by a surround dongle. But it has RGBs. And you get it all in one package. And it has this nice thing to wind your cable around, integrated into it and stuff.
You said it's a headphone amp as well that does 3D effects?
Yeah, it'll do simulated surround. I haven't installed the software yet. I haven't gotten that far. It has a USB.
Yeah, because I'd be kind of interested in what kind of power it can push out.
You know what? You should have been the one to review this, Josh.
Why would I do anything like that? I've got too many things to review.
And I'm looking at the specs here on the Cooler Master website. It says it's up Qi charging up to 10 watts. So it's those Android fast charge devices up to 10, and then iPhone at 7.5.
So this Galaxy S9 Plus should charge really fast on this thing.
Price notwithstanding, this is actually kind of a really good idea and a concept. I mean, we only have so much space on our computers. A lot of people game with their headphones anyway, so you got a stand here that provides 3D audio, 7.1 surround stuff. You've got extra little bling in there. It's a charger. It's a place to hang your headphones. That's a really good idea.
Josh, Cooler Master is on line 2. They're interested in a technical marketing position.
Now, if we could find some actual, things like, SNR and if it's an auto sensing of, how many ohms your headphones are, that would be really nice to have that kind of information.
Yeah, I don't think this is a particularly high end or high. I don't think they're marketing as a high end audio processor. But I've seen devices like this from a number of companies that kind of include some of this functionality. There's definitely a number of RGB enabled headphone stands. There's ones that do wireless charging. There's ones that have USB hubs. I don't think I've seen one that does audio wireless charging hubs and everything all together in one prior to this. But yeah, if you're out in the audience and you've seen something like this that does all this stuff, leave a comment. Let us know. Maybe Sebastian can roll in sort of a comparative component into his review, or at least
that's the kind of this is the first time I've heard of something that has all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and at just first glance, I'd say $79. That's not too shabby. Well, especially you look at what $19 to $25 for a reasonable wireless charger for your phone.
Yeah.
20 is pretty normal for, and then you have to look at, does it do 7.5 watts? Some of them might only be 5, or, it's as a wireless charging base, you're getting, like you said, about $20 in value on that compared to something like a Chiotech product on Amazon that's like $15. But
and your headset always falls off of that anyway. So
the kitty decided to join me. She's licking herself in the other chair. You may not be able to see it.
Zoom in.
Well,
hey, kitty. Rainy.
But let's keep moving on. We've got another news story. G.Skill's out with memory. I know, obviously, Ryzen 3000 has improved the memory situation significantly. But we've still got companies targeting, ready for Ryzen or made for Ryzen. And one of those is G.Skill. They've got the new Trident Z Neo DDR4 memory, and this is a range of memory from as low as 2666 in terms of frequencies up to 3600, and timings from down as low as 14 to it looks like 18 at some of the higher speeds there. And we've got the if you're listening on the audio, we've got the list of the various specifications here at the site, so we'll have a link there in the show notes. No pricing yet, of course. Pretty good memory that will hit the optimum settings, the optimum speeds for Ryzen, and it's it's RGB. It's got a nice design. It's RGB, but it's not ostentatious. Kind of it's not some of that crazy memory Sebastian had for his review. What was that called? The gold ones with the diamonds. It was,
let's see. The Trident Z Royal.
Yeah, the Royale.
Look at those fingerprints.
Look how beautiful these. Completely devoid of fingerprints. Oh, see, I'm upstaged by the kitty.
Of course you are.
Well, she came over to visit. Well, that's kind of holding her funny. So, hey, kitty, what's that on the screen? What's that on the screen?
Look, it's gold.
You?
Shiny.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
Kitty's
That'll get her
insane.
attention.
Hey, look. Shiny, kitty.
Is that 1.2 volt on the 3600 accurate, or is that a PR typo?
That would be really low.
Let's see. It's highlighted. I don't know what that means. But
memory problems can be a tough pill to swallow, but G.Skill might have the one for you with the new Neo memory.
God, I hate memory. I was so
You know,
happy
I'm
when
still-
XMP and AMP came out and solved a lot of the just garbage
Work,
and
damn you.
introduced other
Okay.
garbage.
No.
Where's
But at least
where
you
is
got
the
more
AMP?
consistent garbage.
Where are the DIMMs coming out with AMP?
I've got a set here.
But I mean, like this new stuff, like this just has XMP profiles, and so does the
Yeah, that's
G.Skill
the
Fury X that I have, or Flare X.
Gil.
Gil
Oh,
has
Gil.
Here.
AMP. It's the Ryzen version.
I have not had this running at 3600 successfully on X570 yet, and I've had numerous issues with the board behind me running XMP profiles above.
Hey, your BIOS.
I can't if there isn't a
I
newer
know.
one. I'm on the newest one available, and it's from July 5, and it will not boot. The ultra compatible AMD specific 3200 memory that I've been using on an X470 board flawlessly. It's 3200 CL14. It's pretty low latency memory, and it won't boot. It boots at, it'll run at 2400 just fine. I've been running it at 3000 just fine, but 3200 at CL14. If I do the sub timings, then it starts to get problematic. I've had a couple of blue screens, so I guess I don't get my 14, 14. What is it? 14, 14, 14, 34 or something.
That's tight.
And
Yes.
speaking of updating BIOSes, I don't think we have a news story on it, but we should probably mention too. There's the news is out that AMD is offering upgrade, or no, I'm sorry, what do they call it? Update kits,
Upgrade kits.
upgrade kits.
Yes.
And so if you've got one of those older 3 and 400 series boards that needs a BIOS update to run Ryzen 3000, and you don't have one of those older processors to do it, they will send you out a loaner 2400 Athlon 2400G and thermal material, and you can pop that in your board, boot it up, do the upgrade, and send the processor back. So a nice little kit. Now, obviously, we haven't tried that yet. We don't know how easy that is to use. Are they shipping quickly and the process there? But it's that's going to be an option, it looks like. So worth looking into if you're stuck on a board that doesn't have the correct BIOS.
Please tell me they called it Das Bootkit.
A missed opportunity. But all right, the next news story we've got is some news about Windows. And if you've been paying attention to Windows updates, obviously the 1809 update last fall was a bit of a mess. And Jeremy laughs. That poor bastard has it worse than most of us, having to support people. But it looks like as we roll through these Windows updates, a version is going to be running out of support, and Microsoft is going to force you to upgrade. So tell us what's happening here, Jeremy.
Windows 10 is hitting end of life before Windows 7.
Well,
Technically true, but
one
not
part of
exactly accurate. Yes.
one part of Windows 10.
So on November 12th, the old Spring 2018 is hitting end of life. What that means is that Microsoft has returned to the pop-up saying, hi, we're updating you. That there is no yes, there is no no, we are doing it. You can beg to hold it off, and as it stands right now, you'll be able to do so for 35 days after you first saw that warning, at which point, like it or not, you're going to join the rest of us on this May 2019 update. You get to skip the fall one altogether, which is really good, because that was one that they might have considered trying to do this with, but definitely are never going to, because they want to forget it about as much as we do at this point. It's, of course, being sold as, for your security, we are ensuring that you're getting the latest Windows updates, and that any of the problems that existed before we're going to fix. But as many people have found, it means you just save everything all the time, because sooner or later your computer's just going to say, hi, I see you're working on a very important document and you forgot to upload it to the cloud for the last hour. See ya, I'm upgrading. We'll see if this actually lasts. The feedback has been incredibly negative every single time this has happened. So it may be that you do get a chance to abandon it. There's some interesting registry edits that you can do that would probably reset the timer or prevent you from getting that pop-up in the first place. On the other hand, I mean, Spring 2018 wasn't that brilliant of an update that you want to stick with it forever. I totally understand you wanting to skip the fall, but we've been working with this May 2019 updates for a few months, not really since May, but a few months, and it's pretty stable. It's not bad. You might even want to consider doing it now so that you don't end up under the gun being forced to.
Yeah, 1903.
Or you could go back to ME.
Right. 1903's had I've had a few issues, but it hasn't been catastrophic.
No.
But I've also noticed too that the updates are not as bad as they've been in the past. For example, our shared Plex server is on Windows because we're idiots, and there was a period in earlier versions where I'd suddenly get a bunch of text messages that Plex is down, and I go in to realize that it had rebooted itself without warning. Haven't had that happen in almost a year now. It still nags you to death, but it doesn't seem to force you to reboot, at least on the Win 10 Pro that we're running there. So maybe a little bit.
They seem to have figured out people dislike it.
Yeah. But so check that out if you're running an older version. Look at your options now so that you're not stuck when the time runs out. All right, I think we've got our last news story here. This is an update to the NZXT build service. This isn't new. Build B is a stylized BLD, and this is something NZXT unveiled, I think, at the end of 2017. I think it's been at least a year now. But basically, it's their sort of custom building configurator. You go to their website and you can put together a NZXT based system, and they'll build it for you and ship it to you. And the limit is, of course, you've got limited choice in terms of parts. They're obviously going to focus on NZXT cases and coolers. But what's cool about it is you can go to their site, and instead of just picking out a part, you can say, I want to play these 3 games. And it will tell you what parts to pick to get acceptable frame rates at a certain resolution. So you can say, I play these 3 games at 1440p. I want to hit 60 in all of them. And they'll say, okay, here's your build. And what's new here is they've released a bunch of new baseline systems called starter and streaming based on Ryzen processors. However, as of now, the systems that are there are all Ryzen 2000 based, and there's not even an option to upgrade to the 3000 series if you go into like the advanced configurator part. So yeah, the prices are not bad. You basically pay retail, and then they charge a $99 assembly fee. So it's not terrible as far as like, built to order systems go, but you may want to hold off and see if they switch to 3000 once this 2000 inventory runs out, because it'd be an awful shame, to put a bunch of money down on a 2700X system when you could go out and get a 3600X, which is performing pretty close to that 2700X, or go up to one of the higher end Ryzen 3000s as well.
But they do still fill a purpose. I mean, I was looking at it, and as I'm writing up, I'm like, wait a second, that's a 2, not a 3. What are you trying to pull over my eyes here, guys? But looking into it, it's, if you're a first-time person, like first-time want to buy your first PC, or you've had hand-me-downs and it's finally at the point you're going to buy one, and you're, fairly younger, so you've got the attention span of a mayfly, it's actually a decent thing. If you order one of these and complete your entire order, pay for it, and get it ready to be configured and shipped before 11 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, it ships that day. So you're literally impulse buying your brand new machine, and it will, depending on where you are, be there within a day or the next day. That is actually kind of impressive to me. If you order a little bit later in the day, it'll ship the next day. It'll still ship within 48 hours. You just don't get that. Like, even when I'm piecing together my system, it comes in slowly over the course of weeks or months if I'm sitting and waiting to get a good deal on a system or on a system piece. So if you've got very little attention span, $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, and you're not really sure what you're doing, so you want a case that you can open up, see into, shows you exactly, like, hey, this is how cable management is done. This is how you set up a system. This is a system you can now upgrade. And because you bought it from us, you've got tech support via chat for the 2 years of the warranty goes for. So no, you're not getting a kick-ass system. You're not getting the newest system. But if you're a novice at it, this is actually not a bad way of doing it. So I'm interested to see what happens over the course of the year. Like how soon before we get the Ryzen 3s in there.
Yeah. And I've never bought one of these as a customer. When we were at Computex, they had a table out with some of their build systems, and obviously they were going to showcase their really nice put together ones, and they were. The cable management was great. It was a nice clean build. Everything was perfect. So I assume that's close to how they'll go in reality. But if anybody out there has purchased one of these, and you want to leave some feedback for us, let us know what the actual customer experience is like. That'd be great, because it is. Yeah, I mean the prices are not bad for a built to order kind of system configurator. But you are limited, not just in processors, but overall, you have far fewer choices for each component than you do at like Puget Systems or Digital Storm or Main Gear or something like that. So, but you're gonna pay more money at those other places too, probably. For
arguably worth it because they do beautiful work. But yeah.
All right. Anybody got any other news they want to cover before we jump into the picks of the week? Jump in. I'll start with mine. It's the, oops, sorry.
Sorry, I was muted. I just said that, these are available now. It's the 3600X. This is not my pick. I will go through that. But yeah, I finally got this in after a train derailed, and I wasn't able to get this over the weekend to get any testing in.
Really?
But yeah,
Jeez.
it's exciting to actually have a 3000 series in my hand. I mean, I'm going back to 1997 when I got my first Athlon K7.
What are you going to stick it in?
What?
What are you going to stick it in?
I've got an X470 board that has an updated BIOS that accepts the 3000 series, so I'm quite happy. Eventually,
and you should have a Tai Chi soon, I hope.
Tai Chi.
All right.
Yes.
That's enough.
Moving along.
Picks of the week. Okay, so
what's wrong with that? It's what you have a problem with our kung fu skills.
Yes,
it's a great way to stay healthy.
Apparently,
it's good for your balance.
Is it?
Yeah,
it is.
Okay,
what your discipline is. Yeah.
Hey, if you can stand up while you're still moving that slowly, your balance is doing pretty good.
I'm a wannabe Wing Chun practitioner myself, based on watching Ip Man a bunch of times. So I can do like some of the poses badly in the privacy of my own home.
Oh, is used to be able to Wang Chun.
Is it Ip Man? Is that how it's pronounced?
That's as far as I know. That's how they pronounce it in the movie.
Okay, I haven't seen
what
it.
What about Kung Pao?
You need to see it. It's Donnie Yen, man. Donnie Yen is the man.
I do like Donnie Yen. Yep. But whenever I saw that movie title, I always said in my head, IP Man. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Intellectual property.
It is IP Man.
Yeah, I'm a man of culture. But picks of the week. Okay, so my pick.
Yipsy Foo.
Let's go. All right, come on.
Drunken boxing.
Don't make me mute you. If I could figure out how to do that.
Birdie. Tiger.
Okay.
Tiger.
So my pick, we've talked about it before, but when we talked about it, I hadn't actually used it yet because they were still doing the beta sign up, but I finally got access to it. And that is the GOG Galaxy 2.0 beta. And I've been playing around with it for a few days here, and it's pretty cool. The whole point of this is that it's not just GOG games, but it's acting as sort of a centralized manager and launcher for games from pretty much everywhere, including your console games like Xbox Live. There's no PlayStation integration yet. Hopefully that might come at some point. But basically you sign up, log in, and start connecting your various services. So you can connect to Xbox, Uplay, Origin, Steam, and it goes out and brings in all your games. And depending on the APIs that are available for each service, it'll bring in friend lists, it'll bring in achievement status and playing time, things like that. And it provides this nice central list for you to bring your games together. I think I have it running here. Let me switch to the actual client if I can figure that out. So this is the actual client here, and I've got GOG, Xbox, Origin, Steam, and Uplay set up. And I guess across all these platforms, I've got 1,323 games, and it's got nice art. Some of the art, depending on the game, it doesn't bring in for whatever reason, but you can manually set art for any game. You can hide games. You can, if it matched it incorrectly, you can force it to match to a different game. And
do you have a list of games that you have not actually played?
Do I have a list?
Sid
No.
Meier's Colonization.
I've not played a lot of these games because a lot of these came over from the PC Per accounts.
Siberia?
Stuff like that. And there's duplicates too, because so like this is the GOG version of DEF CON and this is the Steam version of DEF CON. And you can manually hide one, but something like a smart merging, would be nice, where it detects that you got the same game in multiple places and only shows you one entry in your list. But you can browse through the games, pick a game, launch it regardless of client. Now for the console stuff, it doesn't do that, but it shows you still your progress and your friends and achievements and things like that. You can see, like the GOG store has really nice video previews and screenshots, and it allows you to see that kind of stuff for games that aren't part of GOG. So like this is a Steam game, but I'm still getting the overview and the screenshots and stuff like that. You can create custom filtered lists and keep track of your friends lists all sort of merged together. So it's still a beta. There's still a few things that aren't quite perfect yet, but it's a pretty nice all-in-one kind of interface for managing all these various clients that are exploding everywhere. It also supports Epic, the Epic Game Store client as well. So if you don't want to use that client, you can still see your games here. Now you do use the client in the sense that once you choose to launch a game in another client, it will auto go out, launch that client, launch the game, and then you can configure it to quit the client once you've quit the game and returned to GOG Galaxy. So they're rolling out the beta slowly. Some people have said they've signed up immediately and still haven't gotten in. We've talked to their PR people and they're just being extra careful about rolling it out. So head over to the website there. We'll have the link in the show notes and sign up if you're interested. And hopefully it won't be too long before you can get your hands on it.
And they're not the worst at that. I mean, I swear on my Origin client, I've got 8 copies of Peggle somehow. And no, yes. I have not ever played it.
There's lots of different, lots of duplicates in my library. And yes, Peter in the chat, I have played Cuphead, although I played it initially on Xbox with my son. Well, not with my son, but I mean, he was there. It's too advanced for him. He's only 6, or just turned 7. But he loved the.
It's a perfect
style.
Time for bullet hell.
Yeah, he loved the look of it. So I played it on the console up in the living room, and he watched me and liked it. So,
but that is a beautiful game. The artwork in that is tremendous.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that just as like, oh, this is kind of a side scroller, it's crappy, blah blah blah. And then a buddy of mine, bought it and he downloaded it on my wife's machine as we were having a gaming night, and he's like, oh, you got to check this out. And yeah, Cuphead is just, the art is fantastic.
Sadly, I haven't seen a lot of it.
Yeah, no, it's I don't like that style of play, but you're watching it and you're like, wow, this is like watching a 1930s really good animation type, scene. It's just it's fantastic.
Yeah,
they did a good job on it.
Because it looks so good, it helps because it's so frustrating, and you get so angry, dying over and over again. But then you're like, oh, that's so awesome. It just looks so cool. It helps mitigate the anger and the rage. But yeah, and there are tons of other, well, not tons, but there are many other multi-service launchers out there. There's some that are open source, some that are proprietary. I've played with a few of them here and there. So far, this has the best potential in terms of the speed of how it loads the thumbnails really fast. It connects to all your services really easily. It's highly customizable. But if you're already running something else that's working for you, that's fine too. But check this out if you've never used anything like this before. But moving on to Jeremy's pick, he's got something that'll make some Canadians happy.
Guess what's in stock up here in the Great White North?
Ooh.
Even the 3700X. because the some of the i7s and the i5s, you do spot them on Amazon and Newegg for the 10 minutes that they're actually in stock for. But at this point, 13 are left in stock.
What about the 3900X? They have that too.
Well, this product is no longer available, and by that I mean, well, but they're confirming that as of earlier last week, that they are going to be allocated and shipping, which is crazy because you can't really get your hands on them.
I would be really curious to find out who is buying a lot of these 3900X. Are they enthusiasts? Are they people who, like for myself, I was talking to our AI machine learning guy, and he was asking me yesterday if did he want to go with like the Threadripper 2950 or the new Ryzen 3000 series with the 12 core 24 thread, the 3900X. It's like, boy, that sure makes
it's a tough choice, isn't it?
3900X makes programming so much more easier because you've got one pool of memory to deal with rather than having to efficiently do things through NUMA, essentially. And so it's just, you got an IPC advantage. You've got, a 95 watt TDP versus, 225, 250. I would be very curious that, if some of these people who had been using these higher thread SKUs in actual professional work, probably like, okay, this 3900X, it's a pretty good deal for what you get, and as many threads as you get, and your IPC, and you don't have to worry about NUMA anymore. They've kind of solved some of the latency problems between CCXs as compared to the previous ones. I mean, it's just so many good things in there for professionals. And I'm curious if they're the ones really just grabbing them up as soon as they can.
I want to take a quick break. I missed a Patreon pledge earlier in the evening. Paul Merlino, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, just became a new patron. So thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Cheers,
no message there, just his name.
Rock on, brother. Thanks.
Cheers.
And
appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Josh, you've got a pick for us.
I do. So I picked this up this week. Well, I ordered it on Sunday because I had like $150 worth of Amazon credit saved up, and I, got in this little package today, and it's, it's not terribly big, but it was really heavy. I was like, what in God's green earth is why is this so heavy? And then I pulled it out, and there's this, copper type metal thing that they're storing the drive in, and I open it up, and it's got, really thick foam around it, and it's got the it's got your little, thing that tell you where to screw it in, and then you've got a covering that I think that you can use as a heat transfer thing, or I don't know what the hell it is. Maybe it's a bookmark because it's got the little.
It looks like a bookmark. Yeah,
It does.
The dangle.
And then finally, here's the actual, NVMe PCIe 4.0 drive, and it's attractive. I mean, they did a nice job on the design. It's that, kind of copper sticker on top that does the heat transfer. Now, this didn't come with the big heat thing. You've got to have a motherboard which has the bigger heat sink that goes over the M.2. Otherwise, they will sell you one for this for like an extra $15, which is, a pretty good chunk of metal. But yeah, the board supposedly I'm getting in here soon has those covers, so it should be able to absorb that heat and transfer it nicely to the memory for the most part. And for $240 you can have a cutting edge PCIe 4.0 drive that's pretty fast in pretty much everything you do.
And let's
Pretty
clarify
much.
for our audio listeners too. This is the Sabrent, or is it Sabrent? Sabrent 1 terabyte Rocket NVMe PCIe 4.0 drive for $240 at Amazon right now.
Yeah. And, you know, up until about 8 weeks ago, that was really about the price of a fast 1 terabyte NVMe drive. And it isn't until recently that those have gone down significantly in price.
Heat
But
pipes.
it's still pretty good.
And it looks like you for $10 more you can get the version with the mega heatsink, and then the 2 terabyte model comes in at $429.99 for the bare drive and $449 for the drive with the heatsink. So, and those prices, man, they're not bad compared to PCIe 3 NVMe, high end NVMe drives at those capacities.
Not at all.
Which
I
is
mean,
just,
the 970 Pro still outpaces it in price dramatically. So,
yeah. All right, and finishing up our picks of the week, we've got
apparently there's a slick deals for $200 for that
Yeah.
Gen 4 1 terabyte.
Oh, really?
And it comes
So
with the
dig it
super
up.
pipes.
Let's see. Can I copy
cool
this
stuff.
over? Is it Slick Deals is just listing it here. Let's see. Oh, so it's a promo code. Yeah, it's a promo. It's still Amazon selling it, but it's a promo code.
Oh, okay. Why didn't I get those promo codes? Oh, I ordered too early.
Yeah.
Why?
The early
Curses.
adopters.
I'm so dumb.
Yeah,
So
the
dumb.
cost of early adoption.
Hey,
Yeah.
are you still within your return window on Amazon?
Probably.
Not that I
but I'm not even
advocate
gonna
manipulating
do
the system, but
it. Yeah, no.
But finishing up here, we've got Sebastian with something different.
yeah.
Slim
Hey,
fit,
I've been
dude.
looking for some interesting T-shirts because doing podcasts and stuff, and I wear pretty much.
I mean, there's only so many
all the time.
Josh Tech T-shirts that you can buy.
I know, and I haven't bought any yet, and I feel bad about that. However, if you go to Redbubble, which is not a sponsor, you can just search for whatever. And I was just kind of lost looking at Windows 95 and DOS and old game companies like that. I ordered a Sierra shirt. I haven't got it yet, but just the old Sierra logo with the mountain. Found an Interplay shirt. They've got stuff for pretty much anything you can imagine. If it's sort of geeky and or tech related, or they got a bunch of interesting like Doom shirts and all kinds of stuff. But this
Well,
is
they
just
don't have
one
the
example
good
of the.
Pepcac shirt though.
I don't know.
They do have them, but they don't have the one with the guy
Probably
who's
need that
hanging
computer for
himself.
my work.
They have a number
I
of
need that
Lemmings
shirt.
shirts though, if you care.
Oh,
Some interesting ones too. Clever. But yeah, this is just an example of one of the T-shirts I ordered the other day. It looks authentic. It's probably because it is. It's just somebody using like a PNG file and making a shirt out of it. I'll see what the quality's like.
Does Microsoft technically have a copyright on that, or a trademark on that statement in that
I don't know.
style?
Maybe is it? It looks like it's directly
No, it's a
lifted,
simple
or else they
statement.
just simulated it. Yeah, I mean, but the orange on a black. Do you think Microsoft is enforcing the copyright on "It's now safe to turn off your
Probably
computer"
that
from
they probably
I
did
don't
not
know.
copyright
era?
that in the first place.
I've heard of crazier things being attempting to be covered under intellectual property one way or another. So
Let me just say, if you go to Redbubble, you will see egregious breaches of intellectual property rights. It's like
of course.
Etsy, but it's all T-shirts and like coasters and mugs. I found an American Megatrends BIOS mug that I almost bought, but it was $17.99. So
Also,
I
the
have
chat
too many
is
mugs.
the chat's Mirror PPC in the chat is saying that no, it's not copyrighted because BSD and Linux use that phrase as well. But there might be a what's it called? A design patent on that specific look, though. Like that phrase with the orange on the black, slightly pixelated. Who knows?
are you sure you're not an
that's
attorney?
my font.
No, I am certainly
Quit
not
raining
an
on our
attorney.
parade, Jim.
I'm just wondering. I mean, do you guys remember when those jackasses at Fine Brothers tried to trademark or React, the word React, a couple years ago? Things happen on the internet. They went after anyone who was posting videos,
Having a reaction video.
basically saying X reacts to X, and it was despicable. But hey, all right. Well, that's the show,
I should
folks.
introduce them to sodium and how it reacts to.
Thanks for joining us. You can join us live. As we said at the beginning, we record live usually Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. That's at pcpro.com/live. And you can sign up for our mailing list so you know when we go live. That's at pcpro.com/subscribe. You can, if you don't join us live, we still have the full show available the day after via YouTube, on our website with the show notes, and via your favorite RSS-based podcast app. We've got video and audio versions of the podcast. You can find the subscription links there also over at our website, pcpro.com/podcasts. And we thank you for joining us as always. I hope everyone has a great week. We'll be back with our regular show next week. And then I believe the week after that, we'll still have a show, but it probably is going to be audio only because I'm going to be out of town. That's Wednesday, the 31st. So it might be just an audio only, not live streamed show, but we'll have the details for that next week once we figure out what we're doing. But until then, everyone have a great time. We'll see you next week.